professor of practice at the University of Michigan. He's also a former intelligence officer and senior director for counterterrorism at FBI. And he joins me now live from Michigan. Great to have you here with us on TRT World. See, my understanding is it was a very, very well planned intelligence operation. As someone who has worked with the FBI before, first and foremost, what's your reaction? What are your thoughts on how this whole operation was executed?
Well, thank you for having me this morning. And based on the whole series of developments the past few months, beginning in September through now, it was clear the U.S. Under President Trump was engaged in a serious pressure campaign against Nicolas Maduro and Venezuela. And part of that pressure campaign included this large military buildup in the region. And as these past few months have unfolded, we've seen the use of some of that capability in the region, including a number of strikes against boats described as transiting drugs or other material potentially headed for the United States, and the U.S. military intervened and has struck over 35 of these boats, but none of them, as far as we know, were officially linked to the Venezuelan government. There have been other things that have happened inside Venezuela. News reporting last week of an apparent CIA drone strike against a drug lab in Venezuela as well. But what has happened over the last few hours is very different. So this seems to be a precise military operation not to invade Venezuela and occupy it the way that the U.S. launched these large military campaigns in Afghanistan and Iraq, but something designed to find President Maduro, detain him, and now bring him back to the United States to face criminal charges. So this is a very different kind of operation. And now it will transition, at least for the one part of this, will transition inside the United States for a legal trial that President Maduro and his wife will have to face.
But what are the risks involved here? See, I understand Maduro has been flown out of the country, but there's no guarantee that his government is going to fall, because the vice president, at least it appears right now, he's still in power. He has been releasing his statements. Now, there is, of course, a lot of uncertainty about the military of the country. We don't know whether or not the military is completely backing the vice president of Venezuela right now. But, there is a possibility it might happen. So, do you think we have the metrics to understand at this point that this was a successful U.S. operation and the U.S. has achieved all its objectives?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. And the U.S. ostensibly achieved the objective of capturing President Maduro. But now the what comes next question, this is a huge one. And will it be Delcy Rodriguez, who's the current vice president? Will she move up in power and be named as the sitting president or assume control? I don't know how the process works inside of Venezuela. Does the parliament have to make that move? Does she have to go through another round of presidential elections? And as you noted, will the military, which is this powerful institution in Venezuela, will it back her? Is there somebody else currently inside the Venezuelan power structure who will also has an eye on the presidency? And what about people on the outside? Maria Maduro or others, or not Maduro, but Machado, will those people likewise be considered or try to become the next president of Venezuela? And they are more friendly to the United States or towards the West. So these are huge questions that nobody knows the answers to right now. And one would have to believe that the U.S. does not want to see anarchy reign in Venezuela.
Right. And one thing that really stands out for me at this point, Javed, is that, yes, it's true that Maduro faces a lot of opposition within Venezuela, but I think it would be wrong to ignore the fact that there are still people in Venezuela who support Nicolas Maduro. For example, we are getting live pictures from Caracas right now. We can see that on the top right-hand side of our screens. And my producer was just telling me that these are people who are basically demanding the U.S. government return Nicolas Maduro to the people of Venezuela. So, there's still this possibility that what the U.S. wanted to achieve with the capture of Nicolas Maduro, it might not achieve that.
Well, again, this is another risk in these kind of operations or these kind of campaigns is that when you remove a person in power who the U.S. government or the West does not like, whether it's Maduro in Venezuela or Saddam Hussein in Iraq and other examples, who comes next? What comes next? And that alternative may be worse than the status quo. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case now, but there may be a period of time where the mood in Venezuela, people are angry, they're upset. Maduro had some level of support, not overwhelming, but some level of support. And will it make it even harder now for the U.S. to achieve a different set of objectives in its relationship with Venezuela? I don't know the answer to that question, but I would have to believe that people are thinking about that. But this is the difficulty in these kind of moments. It's very hard to know what reality
I
just
think
takes over.
Okay, Javed, we lost your audio there for a second, but I think we have it back now. So one more question here. You know, a lot of people have been debating what kind of precedent does this set in the rule of law order that we have in the world right now? Because, see, the U.S. did this to Venezuela today. What if Russia does it to Ukraine tomorrow? What if China does it to Taiwan? So what are your thoughts on that debate that we are seeing happen across the world right now?
Yeah, another great question. And well, going to the Russia example, this is probably what President Putin wanted to achieve in February 22 in the initial beginnings of the Russian military campaign against Ukraine. All the media reporting from that period of time suggests that Russia was trying to find and capture President Zelensky and not arrest him, but actually kill him. And I hate to say that, but that's probably what the goal was on the Russian side. So Russia thought about this for Ukraine going back 4 years. The U.S. has now done this with Maduro, but they arrested him and removed him. They didn't kill him on site, and now he's going to face a criminal trial. But yeah, it does set a precedent for potentially how other countries may thinking about doing this in their regions or in their backyards. We're going to just have to wait and see. And one of the things President Trump will probably address in his press conference later this morning is what was the legal or the policy basis for this operation in the United States, because there's no congressional declaration of war against Venezuela. There's no separate legal instrument under U.S. law known as an authorization to use military force. So Congress has not stepped in and provided President Trump with the authority to do this. So there likely was another analysis where President Trump was allowed to do this under under the U.S. Constitution, what is known as Article 2 powers as commander in chief. And so I think that was probably the legal basis for this, but there's no congressional action on the flip side.
Javed Ali, fascinating insights. Thanks very much for joining me here on TRT World. I really appreciate your taking out the time.